It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to jump on that gigantic Sharp Interactive board and go through Xerox's third quarter numbers. The numbers are in. You can clearly see on the Sharp Interactive board, I'm saying this: Xerox cannot escape the pains of reinvention, just like everybody in the industry can't escape the pains of reinvention. Those of you that think you're escaping the pains of reinvention, you're not reinventing. And eventually you're going to face those pains. We all expected Xerox to take a hit in revenue decline because they've been telling us that for the last few quarters. The revenue is going to decline. They're making adjustments. You know, they're moving direct business to dealer business. When they do that, guess what they're doing? Well, they're swapping retail dollars for wholesale dollars. That's a decline in revenue. We also realize that Xerox, being the largest print dealer in the world to the end user, that it's a declining marketplace. Every machine they put in the field prints less tomorrow than it did today. And today it printed less than it did yesterday. It's a declining market. These machines are going to use less toner because they're printing less. These machines are going to deliver a less revenue stream for the clicks because they're printing less. The machines that are going out in the market cost less because the marketplace, well, they just don't demand them as much as they used to. Supply and demand has taken effect. Ladies and gentlemen, the industry's changing drastically. And whether you're Xerox, Konica Minolta, Ricoh, Canon, Toshiba, Kyocera, Sharp, it's irrelevant who you are. The core deliverer of print is declining. And that's a fact. And how you adjust your business, your conglomerate, to meet those declines will be challenging. And no one will escape the pains of reinvention. You know, Xerox had $1 billion impairment charge against their Goodwill assets. Folks, I've been telling you all, you're going to see some impairment charges, okay? They're coming. The percentage of Goodwill as a percentage of assets for the major players in our industry is way too damn high. When you look on the 10Q of Xerox for the quarter of their second quarter, which ended in June, Goodwill represented 29% of their assets. It's way too damn high. Goodwill as a percentage of assets should be around 10%. And if you look at the other players, way too high. So get ready for some more impairment charges. But no one in our industry is going to escape the pains of reinvention. Xerox trying to move into the IT space. They bought that company called IT Savvy. Folks, the jury's still out on that with me. I'm not sold on that. And I've got some concerns. I'll share some more of those today. But at the end of the day, we know that Xerox, to maintain as a going concern, has to remold themselves, remodel themselves. They have to go to the customer of the future, as well as service and support the customer today. So without any further ado, let's jump on the board. I'll share what I put together. The first thing I want to tell Xerox and every single person that's getting into the IT space is this: you need the ideal customer profile. And in order to get an ideal customer profile, you have to be able to clearly define what the deliverable is. And I think our industry as a whole is still confused about the deliverable of IT. We want to sell a buffet of products to all of our print customers, and we're still talking like that, and that scares the hell out of me because that's not reality. Konica Minolta thought they were going to do that when they bought All Covered. How long ago was that? Ricoh thought they were going to do that when they bought Mindshift. How long ago was that? Ricoh's running around. You're buying up more assets. We saw All Covered dump all the crap underneath All Covered, right? I don't believe it's about a buffet of IT services that we're going to sell our current print customers. I believe it's about a clearly defined deliverable that we're going to take into the marketplace, and then we're going to find the ideal customer profile to sell it to. And every time I see verbiage talking about we're going to take this business that we just acquired and we're going to sell all this stuff to our print customers, I just don't think we still get it. And we got to change that thinking. Xerox has an advertisement out there, and we've all seen this advertisement, right? What does the future of work look like? Well, folks, I can tell you right now, if you look on the screen over here, and that beautiful woman in the digital landscape, navigating information in the digital landscape, keeping it behind glass, reading it behind glass, moving it around behind glass, and even destroying it behind glass. The future of documents is in a virtual world. The future of IT services is all in the cloud. That changes shit so dramatically. This is where we're at today, kind of, right? This transition. Maybe we got some apps on our machine that help people navigate information that's in the physical world. We got to scan it. We want to print it out. Well, we all know that scanning and printing is becoming less and less important to every single process around business, right? It is. So we got to go from this to that. And in order to go from this to that, we got to define the customer. We all knew who our customer was around print. Everybody, right? I mean, my God. Sell a little machine, a medium machine, a big machine. Sell them a new machine, a used machine. Every single person you talk to in the heyday of print was a customer. That's not the same in IT. And if we don't understand who the ideal customer profile is, I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe. Let's look at some numbers. For their third quarter, they did $1.528 billion. $1,528 million. That was a 7.5% decline in revenue quarter on quarter. But folks, here's the bottom line. Operating profit, 5.2%. Let's talk about this $1 billion impairment charge against Goodwill. I want to read this. Related to the establishment of a valuation allowance against certain deferred tax assets to reflect their realizability. I mean, they're realizing what these things are really worth, and they have to make adjustments, just like everyone in our industry is going to have to make adjustments. It's exciting that Xerox is actually a 5.2% operating percentage of margin. Goodwill charges, they're never good at all. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, as our industry reinvents itself, as our industry reevaluates its assets, especially those Goodwill assets, we're going to see a whole lot more impairment charges coming soon. I've been warning you all about that. Back in June, there it is. The Goodwill percentage for Xerox represented 29% of their assets. With this $1 billion impairment, if nothing changed on the on the consolidated financials from the second quarter to the third quarter, they're going to be about 18%. They're still kind of high because I think it should be more than 10. Their asset to equity ratio is 25%, meaning 75% of their assets are encumbered. This impairment charge on the new 10Q will change some things. We'll see where those are. The 10Q's not out yet. But I'm telling you right now, Goodwill and intangible assets are going to get reevaluated across our industry. Buckle up. When I looked at their revenue, you could go back to 2022 for the fiscal year, they had $7,107 million. For 2023, they had $6,886 million. For 2024, year to date, 9 months in, they're at $4,608 million. Ladies and gentlemen, they're going to come in at 10% behind, at least. That's the reality. That's the reinvention. What they grab in revenue from IT Savvy, depending on the closing of that deal, will add some revenue. But I'll tell Xerox, like everybody else, it can't be just about adding some revenue to try to make Wall Street happy. It has to be about adding profitable revenue. And more importantly, it has to be about adding a story for continued revenue that will be profitable. That's what Xerox has to share and everybody in our industry has to share. The days of chasing revenue at all costs have to end. And how many times I've been saying that? Of course, I copied that from Orlando Bravo. When you look at the equipment sales for the third quarter, $339 million, they're down 12%. Ladies and gentlemen, post sales, $1,189 million. Total revenue is the $1.5 billion. So we're going to see the revenues decline. And I will say this to Xerox, and this is a little bit of a criticism here, Xerox, but I don't think anybody gives a flying crap about entry, mid-range, and high-end equipment and the revenue you're producing. I don't really think they care. They know no matter what area it is, it's declining. You're the biggest dealer in the world, so it's going to decline, okay? Anything you get will be displacement growth. What the world cares about is the future of Xerox. And if we can get this detailed around entry, mid-range, and high-end, then we should get this detailed around what I call the buckets of IT. But when I look at the revenue numbers for entry, mid-range, and high-end, we got the decline. Entry's a 4.4% decline. You got 13.4% in mid-range, 15.1% in high-end. We know that Xerox is making some adjustments on the high-end. And these adjustments are going to be painful. But I have to ask the question, you have other in the equipment side. Is that the IT equipment? What is this other? Because you just lumping everything together, equipment, $339 million for that third quarter. What is all that? That's all the equipment, right? So that's all the IT equipment. So for the third quarter, you did $5 million in IT equipment or other equipment. For year to date, you're at 15. Is this where we're going to see the IT savvy equipment number? Will that grow that number? Xerox, please be the first in the industry to clearly define the buckets. Tell us what the print equipment revenue is. We don't care what segment it is. It's irrelevant. We all know we're moving down segment. It's irrelevant. What's the print equipment? What's that number look like quarter on quarter, year on year? What's the print supplies and services? What's that number look like quarter on quarter, year on year? Software for print. What's that look like? What's the percentage of the software print revenue against the equipment revenue? Then people can visualize in their mind where we're going with print. We all know where it's going. It's going down. It's declining. So can we get more money by doing some software services around print that are higher value, right? Giving us more profitability. What's our IT hardware as a bucket alone? What's our IT software as a bucket alone? What's our IT managed? What are we getting in services that we're managing? Ladies and gentlemen at Xerox, if you don't do this, I'm telling you right now, you're just going to be chasing revenue. Wall Street's going to look at the revenue. What are you substituting the decline in print with this other revenue? But they're not clearly going to understand it. But if Wall Street understood what you're doing and they saw where your IT services revenue was growing, it's profitable. Where they saw your IT manages, what you're servicing, growing and it's profitable. When they realize who that ideal customer profile is and you can articulate that, they'll get excited. Because they'll see, because right now this is where we're going, right? That's the future of work. And I will tell you this, it's less IT hardware because we're going to get rid of a lot of infrastructure because it's all moving to the cloud. It's more IT software. The problem with software is a lot of that's just pass-through dollars. And it's not going to be that profitable. It's in the IT managed where the profit's going to be. And how sophisticated Xerox can get in IT managed will determine the profitability of the IT managed business. But Xerox, you're going to have to share those numbers. Year to date for the third quarter, equipment, you're at $985 million. To be even with last year, you need $670 million. We know you're not going to get there. You're going to be less, about 10%, right? 12% in equipment. For post-sales, you're at $3,623 million. You need $1,608 to be even with last year. You're not going to get there. We all know it. Total revenue for the 9 months, you're at $4,608 million. You need $2,278 million. You're not going to get there. So you have to be able to share where you're going and what you expect to get when you get where you're going. You know, I make fun of the president or the CEO of HP quite a bit. When he publishes his quarter numbers and he runs around the marketplace talking about putting AI in computers and you see the stock go up. That's just crazy, right? He's able to do that just by talking about something that's the future. Xerox isn't getting that free pass from the financial community. Xerox is not going to get a free pass just by talking about moving into IT services because the industry saw that play out. And quite honestly, I think you'd get more attraction if you told the whole world you're going to put AI in your machines. Oh, next quarter we're going to have AI in our print machines. Everybody get all excited, they buy your stock. But at the end of the day, when you look at HP print business, it's having major declines. And sooner or later, Wall Street will wake up to the fantasies over at HP. But I would say this to Xerox: don't build this whole platform on fantasy. Build it in reality with details and facts. Tell the entire industry where you're going in the future of IT. Break out those buckets and tell us the revenue and the profit. Frequently asked questions. I'm not going to read all of these, but you know, when I looked at the section IT service acquisition and how they talk about IT savvy, I just get concerned when I hear things like we're going to provide these services to all of our print customers. All of your print customers, Xerox, are not going to be the ideal customer profile, I assure you. And without a clearly defined deliverable of the IT, it's nearly impossible to define the profile of the customer to buy it. You know, I looked at IT Savvy. They talked about the acquisition and their financials. And, you know, I would say this to IT Savvy, you know, let me just blow this up. I have a couple concerns about this. I'd like to know what the revenue buckets are. IT Savvy talks about cloud hosting, network security, collaboration, hybrid workforce, and anywhere learning, lifecycle services, deployment services, managed services. What's the equipment revenue at IT Savvy? And I ask that because of the low EBITDA. Xerox shared on their financials that the last 12 months they had $445 million in revenue. Okay? They had an EBITDA of $30 million. That's 6.7%. A 6.7% EBITDA on a $445 million IT services company, that seems low to me. Pretty damn low. And the reason I believe it's low is because there's probably a whole lot of software that's being resold with low profit. And there's probably a whole lot of equipment. And we all know that equipment in IT space, compute equipment, is low profit. Because we're not building out infrastructures anymore. We don't have a lot of labor added to that. It's just we're swapping dollars with manufacturers of hardware, and we're swapping dollars with developers of software companies, but it's not real profitable, and that seems to be a very low EBITDA. That causes some concern. And when I think about where you talk about this combined IT services scale and the 12,000 clients supported by 600 engineers and 350 sales enablement specialists, I'm not going to take the time today to do the math on all this, but as you go through this IT services platform, I will start doing the math in detail. Because who are these 12,000 clients? Who are the 1 million managed endpoints? 250,000 plus infrastructure devices supported on AI ops. We need to know more details. And more importantly, Xerox, I think it would be great to know the starting point of your IT services. What are the starting point dollars of IT services? What's coming out of that reoccurring revenue in your services number currently? What's coming out of the equipment for IT of the equipment number? Share some of those details so you can get the finance world excited. Ladies and gentlemen, Xerox has a tough road to hoe, there's no doubt about it. Can they do it? Time will tell. Will they put the right leadership in place to do it? Time will tell. Things will change. We're going from a customer, that's buying a product from us, to a customer that's going to buy a service from us. We're going from everybody's our customer to we're going to have a customer profile. So many disciplines have to change. And I will watch this IT Savvy acquisition. I'm going to watch it like a hawk. And I'll do everything I can to throw out my warnings, because that's kind of what I do. Because we saw what Konica did with All Covered. We saw what Ricoh did with Mindshift and continues to do in Europe with IT. And at the end of the day, Konica Minolta and Ricoh produce the least amount of operating profit in our industry. Xerox, you're maintaining your operating profit. You need to get it up there. There's no doubt about it. You're cleaning up some of your Goodwill assets. Those are good things. But I have to ask this question as I kind of wrap up today's episode. Where's the proof that existing print clients are converted to IT services clients? Where the hell's the proof? Please think about this. Think about the why you're doing this and the who you're doing it to. Think about the ideal customer profile, not the print customer profile. Clearly define the deliverable so the whole world can understand it. So that all the reps that work at Xerox, all the customers of Xerox can get into an elevator and describe exactly what Xerox does and how they're helping people all over the world with the way they work, regardless of where they work. That's what we need to understand. And more importantly, once you clearly define the deliverable, we'll be able to understand the profitability of that deliverable. You saw the train wrecks. Konica Minolta, 40 companies is what all covered rolled up. The 3 years before Konica Minolta bought them. And what they bought after Konica bought them. Our friends at Ricoh, same thing, buying it all up. I don't believe there's a proven story that says that a major player in our space could go out and buy IT assets and deliver those assets into the marketplace in a deliverable that makes sense and is profitable. And chasing revenue at all costs cannot be the option. At Xerox, you're really good at cutting your cost, and that's important. More people need to follow your direction on that. But eventually, the reinvention cost will transition to reinvention cost additions. So you're going to cut some cost as you reinvent because you're cutting cost of the old way. You're changing processes to create a new way. But eventually, during the reinvention, you're going to have to realize that we're going to have to increase costs in certain things, and human capital will be one of them. It takes a whole different human capital, a whole different infrastructure to deliver successful IT services into the marketplace profitably. And notice I said IT services. Anybody can deliver IT compute equipment. You can be behind a phone anywhere in the world and answer a phone call and make 2% margin. That's not where you got to go, right? Reselling software applications. There could be people in the marketplace that take away a lot of the 365 software the industry's selling and put a lot of pressure on IT companies all over the world in that regard. Things are going to change. And I'm just going to wrap it up, real quick. Xerox is also doing some things with their leasing business, and we're seeing HPS get more and more of that, and folks, eventually they'll be out of that. That'll be a good thing. They can focus on their core deliverable of providing services into the customer's offices. And at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we all need to know who that customer is, what that customer profile is. And before we get there, we have to clearly be able to define the deliverable of Xerox. Because everybody watching me knows this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.